Well, hi guys. Welcome back to week 2 of our podcast on Hooked, our addiction series. My name is Allie, and I am joined by Drew.
Hello, hello.
And Todd.
Great to be back.
And before we even get into anything, Drew, can you please explain why your face is on your coffee cup?
So here's the thing. My parents named me Andrew James Williams, like the most basic common name ever to walk the face of the earth. And so if I labeled my cup Drew, another one of the millions of Drews could grab my cup and say, this is mine. And I would have to agree. But if I put my face on it, I can be like, actually, it's mine. That's why. It's just a labeling thing.
I'm going to do that for my backpack.
Yeah.
Where'd you get the face, though? Like, where did you get your face on a sticker?
The internets.
And did you get one, or did you have to buy like 150?
Yeah.
So I found a deal because I love a good deal. I got 20 of these stickers for $1. I was like, I have to do this. So
who has the other 19?
So actually, I gave them away as prizes because I'm a student pastor at LCBC, and my students saw this and were like, I have to have one. But I couldn't. It felt weird just handing my face out. But now thinking of it, giving it as a prize.
It still sounds kind of weird.
Even weirder.
Yep.
But they loved it. So this is not the only one I've done. I did one where I, through an app, made my face look like I was 80 and then printed that one out. And then I have a picture of me in my very first car. So I've got a couple of these floating around.
I feel like you would be the guy that has like the socks that has your face on it as well.
I'm not that guy.
Oh, well,
I
feel like
I'm
you
more
are.
the sticker guy than I'm the sock guy.
Okay. Well, so my favorite chocolate candy bar is a Kit Kat. Todd, we found out yours is also a Kit Kat.
Yes.
Drew, I don't know what you like, but we're
It's up
going
there.
to taste Kit Kats
do
today.
it.
Okay.
So we have some different ones.
Give me a break.
That was funny.
Yeah. That's their tagline.
Ooh, I got the
didn't
thick
even
one.
know that.
Crispy wafers
My
in
gosh.
white cream.
You know,
just
I
got
just,
the original.
you know, I just got a cavity filled.
Oh.
I broke a tooth last week, and I
Eating
got
Kit Kats.
Actually, it was. It was eating one of those hard Easter egg things.
Like the robin eggs?
Yeah, and crack.
Wait, everybody, quiet on
So
set.
this is.
I don't know
I
that.
don't
Wait,
think
wait.
it made any noise.
Oh,
that was a
that
good
was
yeah.
better. Wait,
Look at
are
that.
you about to eat it? Like,
Oh, that's why he's got the big ones, though. That was
I
cheating.
know.
how are you about to eat
Well,
it?
did you break it?
Like-
You don't break it on the line?
With my mouth?
But there. Oh no, you're one of them.
What?
You have
You didn't
to
break it in the
like.
rows.
If I ate it, like
Oh.
that's not okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
You
Well,
Monster.
it's not an Oreo. Like an Oreo, yes, you do that with an Oreo. You know, you take it off, you lick the side inside.
I think
And-
you need eating lessons. Hold
yeah,
on,
no, I'm serious.
You don't dunk it? I dunked the whole cookie.
or just eat it.
No,
You
And
don't
then
need to
I
take
don't-
it
I don't
apart.
drink milk.
Kit Kats, you need to take apart.
You're missing out. All right, anyways.
All right.
Kit
Here,
Kat.
eat. I took way too much of a bite.
I just got really insecure about
Good.
eating in front of you for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know why. I was like hiding it for something.
How's the white chocolate?
Disappointing.
So good.
Oh,
I don't, it's unnecessary.
yeah. Have you seen like there's like what's that called? Wasabi Kit Kats?
That sounds terrible. Again, unnecessary. Like, Kit Kat, what you've done is great. Stay in your lane, keep making it, and we'll keep buying it. This, I don't need this.
Yeah.
But
The big cat, is that necessary? Is that too much wafer?
It looks
No, it's
great.
good.
Is it? Okay.
Oh yeah,
That's
it's
surprising.
just like taking 2 of those and putting them on top.
Okay.
And I think that was the whole idea.
Okay. Do
Like
you think-
everybody would do that.
Should
and
that
be
be-
like, well, I should just make a Kit Kat that has 2 on top of each other.
Should that be the norm?
I think so.
Because I'm in the camp of like regular Oreos, discontinue those. Double stuff, just make that Oreo. Like that
Yeah.
becomes the new standard of Oreo because
think-
Yep.
the ratio is perfect with the double stuff. I didn't know if the wafer chocolate
Gonna
ratio.
throw out something crazy. I personally think Oreo Thins are so much better
Yes.
Yeah.
So much
because you can eat like 10 and you don't feel bad about it. But if I ate like 2 double stuffed Oreos, I'd be like, okay, I need to stop. Maybe that's an issue that I need to work on.
Yeah,
now
just,
that-
you just need to give yourself some grace, girl.
oh well,
Eat that double stuff.
Yeah.
but like sometimes there's a little too much of the filling. What's that stuff called? Icing.
Yeah. No, I'm more
Is
of
it
a
called
cookie.
icing?
I like the cookie versus I love the
Cream.
cookie versus
Cream,
the
that's what it
cream.
is.
So I love the Thins.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
Oreos Oreo's doing the most. Oreo, sponsor us this week.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm finishing this.
Because it's good. It's not just average. So last week we were talking about addictions, and we were talking all about different stuff, whether it's food, whether it's coffee, whether it's something more than that. But this week I kind of wanted to talk about, we landed on it last week, grace, and what grace actually looks like in our lives in relation to addiction. So how, and I'm going to ask you this specifically, Todd, how have you experienced God's grace when it comes to addictions and stuff that you walked through early in your life?
Yeah, I know. Like last week, I sprinkled a little bit that I've been in recovery for the last almost 17 years. I lived 36 years without Jesus in my life, and then the last 14 have been with Jesus. So I'm 53, but I feel like 18 still. But, you know, looking back, I grew up in a great household, non-Christian, however, just a loving home, and drinking was just part of what everybody did. It was, and I think it is normal part of society, but I knew when I've had my first drink, and it was not a good experience in that, you know, you get sick and all the crazy things that happen. But anyway, that I knew I wanted more. So I early on knew I probably had a problem with drinking, and it became my identity growing up in school. But then, you know, life ends up catching up with you. And by the time I got out of college, I knew that, you know, although drinking was part of my life, it was still manageable. And I had, so for a living, I had businesses. I graduated from Shippensburg, had a bunch of businesses. From the outside, you would say very successful. But on the inside, it was a whole different story. I had my first panic attack probably around the age of 22. And since then, I knew things on the, you know, the idea of comparing my insides to other people's outsides was always an insecurity of mine growing up. And I think that the ability to rationalize what was going on in my life as it related to my addiction was more than what I was willing to look at honestly. And the first time I walked into an AA meeting at the age of 36 was the first time God's grace truly I saw, because I knew I wasn't alone. For so long, I was in this, I call it a tornado where life was going and happening around me. My kids were 1 and 4 at the time. The only thing I thought about doing is going off somewhere to some island and drinking myself. And I'm like, there's something seriously wrong with me. I'm like, I was married 17 years at the time, had 2 beautiful kids, you know, the nice car, the nice houses, all those type of things. Now, granted, no God in my life. And it was in recovery that I was introduced to God, introduced to God's grace, introduced to what a relationship with God was about, and uncovered for me that alcohol was but a symptom of the, and we talked about a little bit, the hole in the soul, was but a symptom of a bigger problem I had in my life. So that's the real short version of sort of where I was and where God's grace came in. And today, you know, every day, you know, but for the grace of God, there go I. So when, you know, I see people suffering with addiction, you know, I know that for me, you know, although alcohol is, like I said, not an issue for me anymore, God's relieved me of that bondage. But it all has to do with God's grace, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Thanks so much, man. It's good. You talked about God's grace.
Yep.
Met Jesus, received his grace. How would you just explain that to someone? Like, I felt God's grace. Like, what do you mean by that?
All right. So I told you I got sober at 36. It wasn't until 39 when I was saved that I totally surrendered to Jesus. I was at a men's retreat, and this kid came up behind me on a Saturday night, Sunday, we were heading home, and he goes, Todd, like, would you call yourself a Christian? And with a little disdain, I'm like, well, I guess if you have to put a label on it, So I'd knew about Jesus. I had tried to read scripture. I had tried, I loved God. I love what God was doing in my life. However, I wasn't quite bought into the Jesus thing yet. All right. It was the next morning, and all I remember is the white light, and somebody was giving their testimony, and I'm like, all right, I give up. My way doesn't work anymore, and I'm going to get all to Jesus. And like I said, my eyes were open at that moment. So that was a true, like if I say, when did I feel God's grace the most? It was probably on that day it was actually March 8th, which was yesterday, 14 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, so something I was thinking about as you were saying that is grace seems like this beautiful thing that all of us should want, but I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it is just me. Sometimes I feel like it's scary to accept grace, and there's like this like weird pushback that it's like, well, it's still like I did something wrong. Like I'm still guilty of this. Maybe it's shame that I need to get over it. But do you think there's something that sometimes holds us back from accepting God's grace?
I think it's not natural. It's not our first inclination is to give grace to other people, but I think even harder is giving grace to ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I'm hardest on myself when I mess up. If I slip back into addiction, like I beat myself up, and it puts me into hiding and shame, and I'm less likely to share it or even want grace from other people. Like it drives me like deeper. So I think sometimes like giving grace to myself, and maybe that's just a Drew problem. But I feel like that's where I struggle with grace, because it's not my first inclination is to be like, it's going to be okay. But
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about Jesus, is that he does offer us that.
Yeah, I think, and I see this a lot. I think it's pride. I mean, what makes me any different than anybody else? Not a whole heck of a lot. Jesus has shown me at least that, if his grace is good for Paul, who ran around, talk about needing God's grace from Scripture, who am I to not be willing to accept it? It's probably just my pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Gets at the root of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think grace, maybe it is pride, is that thing that for me is so difficult to get over. And I probably am also equally as hard on myself, that sometimes I feel like I just don't deserve to be forgiven for certain things, which is so hard. And I can even think about like people in my life that have struggled with addictions. It is really hard for me to give them grace, and you want to balance the truth and the grace. And sometimes I find myself leaning more towards like truth of like, hey, you should like acknowledge that this is a problem, but I don't give them grace, or I do the other way. And it's all grace and it's never truth. But I think the beautiful thing about our relationship with God is it's both. Like he wants the things that are better for us, but he also is like, I understand. Like sin is a thing. I don't want it to be, but I'm going to just accept you for where you are and who you are, which I think is so beautiful. How do you guys feel like we can respond once we have acknowledged that God has given us grace and we're forgiven? Like, how do you live that out on a day-to-day basis? Like, how do you live in grace?
Yeah, it's definitely daily. It's not a one and done at all. It's daily surrender. For me, I actually start on my knees in my closet every morning. It's called a step 3 prayer. And it's just about dying to self and surrendering to what his plan is for me that day. And, limit the expectations of what I think that day is going to be, and open it up to what God has planned.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think I can feel shame, but recognizing that shame exists because that's supposed to lead us to repentance. And as soon as I confess or repent, hey, this is something I've done, I shouldn't live in shame anymore because I receive that grace. And it can be so easy to be stuck in shame or guilt. But if we're in a relationship with Jesus, that's not the life that Jesus died for us to have. In John 10:10, he said, I came to give you life and give you life to the full, or give you life abundant. Living in shame because of our addictions or our sin isn't the abundant life, because he does offer us grace. And I think it's hard to confess my sin, probably because of my pride, but also maybe because I don't give enough grace to myself or accept grace for myself. So I'm thinking, why would Todd or Allie give me grace if I can't give it to myself? But in the reality is, like, we're all equally in need of Jesus. Like, we need his forgiveness and we need his grace. And so that should free us up to be more open and honest and confess, so we're not living in guilt and shame, so we can live in God's grace and experience that full life that Jesus offers us.
Yeah. So what do you guys think, if first we need to accept it for ourselves, so like we need grace, then what do you think like the church needs to do in response to that? How does the church play a part in helping people realize that they can find grace?
I think LCBC does a great job at acceptance and making people feel, part of wherever they are.
Yeah, it's the belong before you believe.
Yeah.
Like, here you can belong before you believe. And I think it speaks to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think grace too gets to do with realizing that you're not alone. And I think if we as a church can relate to people to know that, hey, we're all on this journey together. We're on this life together. And although our lives might look different, we come from different backgrounds, or we look different, or we have different challenges, that together we can do it through grace. And we don't have to do it by ourselves.
Yeah. I think we need to normalize confession, like, to each other, and just being like open, like, I need Jesus. Like, every day I need Jesus. Yep. What if we like normalize that? And I'm sure you would be like, oh, I need Jesus too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need his grace. I need his forgiveness.
Yeah.
Like, what if we elevated that of, hey, we're all on the even playing field of, we don't deserve forgiveness. We don't deserve his grace. He offers it to us. It's a beautiful thing. And it's nothing I've done to earn it. There's nothing that I can do to like get it, but he offers it freely. And the life change that happens, like, that can happen for all of us. Like, let's just normalize, man, I still have sin in my life. I don't deserve his grace, but man, he offers it, and I'm going to accept it and live in it. And I want you to know about it. I want you to know about it. I want you to hope. Like, I feel like that's the church.
When do you confess? Like, who do you confess to?
Yeah. Like, I have a friend who I've said, I'm never going to lie to you. So ask me the hard questions. And here's the question you need to ask me every week. Yeah. And it has to do with my addiction. Yeah. And like, you need to say this to me, and I promise I'll never lie to you. Like, you need to know
he
that.
has that permission.
Yes.
Yeah. You have given him permission to hold you accountable. Or whatever.
Well, I think that's the beauty of being in a church community, is you have people that you can rely on. Maybe they don't like physically go to your church, but they are someone that is an active believer. And I even have a friend who I could think of, like, there's been a couple times where both of us have been like in and out of seasons of like, we're attending church, but it like our brain is elsewhere. And we both like constantly are like, hey, like, what did you get out of this message? Like, did you actively listen, or were you just sitting there? And for both of us, it's that thing that like someone needs to kind of call us out, because we are the type of people that'll like, I think you said this in week 1, or maybe you just said it. Like, on the outside, everything looks great. But on the inside, it's like something's happening. So she's that person that she can be like, do you feel like you're connecting with Jesus right now? And I have to be like, okay, let me like tell the truth about this, because I need someone to be able to talk about that with. And if I don't have that person, I'm going to lie to myself. I'm going to lie to everybody around me because I need to be held accountable to that kind of stuff. So I think that's one of the best things about being in a church community is having those people that you can be real with. Because if I asked someone to do that who maybe isn't actively going to a church, they might be like, okay, like, did you go? Did you listen? And I'd be like, maybe. They're not going to like press on it. Where my one friend is like, no, like where is your heart right now with Jesus? And that's that constant conversation that I need to keep having with myself, and she needs to keep having with herself. So we're that person for each other. Do you have anybody in your life, Todd, that you can think of, or even like a group?
Yeah, definitely. Multiple people. I have a group we meet every Wednesday morning at Wegmans.
Shout out.
And we have permission. We actually came up with a list of questions individually that we gave each other permission to ask each week with each other. And then I have some other close relationships where we normally confess, usually as things come up in our lives with that. But I'm always reminded, and I don't know if this came up at our message the other week, but, I'm always reminded, a burden shared is a burden halved. A joy shared is a joy doubled. And it is so true. Mm-hmm. It's so elementary, it says easy, does hard. Just to get over that hump, to share a burden with one other person, literally cuts it in half.
Say that again. I want to make a sticker and put it on my mug.
Okay.
What was that?
All right. A burden shared is a burden halved. A joy shared is a joy doubled.
I love it. It's a sticker.
Yep.
Put it on the mug.
And it works.
Like it. Love a sticker.
I like it.
It's magic. It is truly magic how it happens.
I think it's finding safe people.
Yeah.
And the church needs to be a place that has safe people because we're all saying we all equally need Jesus. Yeah. Like that's the safest place to be. Yeah. So find those people.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sick of being fake. Like, who wants to? The mask is. Oh, it's exhausting. Yeah. I gave up on that.
Coming up with answers to questions to hide something is like literally exhausting. Mm-hmm. It stunts you spiritually, emotionally. Mm-hmm. I think even physically, you feel like a weight of trying to hide things. And again, that's not, Jesus didn't die on the cross for us to hide in shame because he offers grace and forgiveness. Yep. And so live in that and experience the full abundant life Jesus is offering.
Yeah. And Allie, you talk about grace and, giving yourself permission not to be okay and not to have the answers and not to have it figured out. It was like a big deal for me. Big deal.
Yeah. Because we're not okay because we have sin in our lives.
Yep.
But that's the beauty of Jesus.
Yeah. And that's where the abundant life, like it's that oxymoron.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. I'm not going to put it on a sticker.
Sure, something like that.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So it's like when I surrender, I have freedom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think it's accepting that it's okay not to be okay. Yeah. But we need to ask God for that forgiveness. And with forgiveness comes this freedom that only God is going to be able to allow us to experience. And I think that is something that's hard to get to. But why do you guys think that grace is so key to that freedom to be able to experience forgiveness?
I think it's because you can't earn your way into freedom.
You stole my answer.
Oh. Well, do you want to continue my thought?
Must be a good answer then.
That must be the answer.
That might be it.
Got it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because we are so dead in our sins that there's nothing we can do to give us life because of that sin that has separated us from that relationship with Jesus. We need Jesus to come and like intervene on our behalf and do the work which he did. He died on the cross and rose victorious over sin and death. That new life he now gives us. Mm-hmm. That is grace. That's the only way to freedom. Jesus is the way to freedom and life eternal.
Yep. And I always love what this relates to grace. The ground is level at the cross. And I visualize that ground at the cross being level and all of us on that ground. And it's level. There's nobody up or down.
Yeah.
On the cross. Yeah.
Oh, that was good. Well, thank you guys for being part of this conversation just about addiction and grace. And I think the thing that I'm taking away is that all of us just need to find that person, need to find that safe place where we can talk about the hard things that we're going through. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.